So you have three basic retrieves when casting artificials to Bonitos and Albies. And the first retrieve I'd like to show you is the Skippy Retrieve. Now this retrieve is what I think is the most fun. And when you're retrieving the lure, the epoxy jig, the Hogan epoxy jig is just going to be skipping across the surface, simulating a fleeing bait fish in that, panic mode. And so what I'm going to do is cast out. I'm going to quickly get control of my line, the slack out of the air. Now I'm going to hold the rod up high. You can see the lure is just skipping out of the water. I'm just making the bait jump, so it's going to have that fleeing bait fish action. Now this is a great technique, in a number of situations. One, if there's massive amounts of bait and you're having a really hard time competing with very dense schools of bait fish, the Skippy Retrieve can help your lure stand out and get that strike, response strike from the Albies in the area, that fear of missing out factor, that lure fleeing, and it'll draw that reaction strike. Now the other time it's good to use this is on greasy, calm days like today, and you're fishing for scattered bones or Albies. You can draw a lot of commotion to your lure, which happens to be very small. So on a calm day like today, this little 5/8 ounce epoxy jig, is making some noise. I can hear this lure from 50 feet away. Now, this technique is probably best suited for the epoxy jig, the Hogan epoxy jig, because the lure is relatively light relative to its size. Now, a lead version of this lure, you'll have a much harder time keeping it skipping on the surface. So I view this technique primarily one that you would use with an epoxy jig. So the second retrieve you need to know when casting to Bonito and Albies is the tip down retrieve. Now the tip down retrieve can range in real retrieve speeds from slow to fast, but you cast out, like always, you want to get control of your line, keep your tip down, and you can impart rod action, just twitching it as I reel. This is similar to how you might fish an unweighted soft plastic, but I'm just making that lure dance and dart, zip through the water. I'll slow it down, speed it up, stall it, reel it, twitch. I just had a little snapper chase this. So again, you want to cast out. Now you have two choices. You can either start reeling right away, or you can let it sink for a few seconds after you cast, 1, 2, 3, as many as 10, and then start reeling it to get, maybe under a bait fish school or something. But twitch, reel, reel, twitch. You can go real fast. You go super fast. You can put the tip in the water to keep the lure under the water, the lure itself under the water. But what I like about this retrieve is you just have a lot of flexibility. You can fish it fast, slow, in between, all in one retrieve. And this technique works for the soft baits you'd use for Albies, the small plugs you'd use for Albies, metals, and certainly the Hogan epoxy jig. And there's really no wrong way to fish it. You want to cast out, tip down, work it, work it. You can go real fast, burn it, stall, go medium, speed it up. If you sense you have an Albie following you, that's the time to speed it up to, that fear of missing out factor. The Albie, they'll commit if they're having a hard time committing often when you do that. But there is no wrong speed, and if you haven't cracked the code, I recommend changing the actual speed up. But again, your tip is down, and you're able to impart action to the lure, making it dance and dart. You can let the lure sink while you maybe get under a school of bait, or if the Albies have gone down, you can get closer to the school. Now you can start retrieving again, tip action, off you go. Now the last retrieve, which is definitely the easiest retrieve to explain, is just the slow and steady, or the slow and low technique. I'm going to keep the rod at a 45-degree angle and just real slow to medium slow retrieve. and I'm just covering ground slowly. Just a nice, slow, easy, steady retrieve. Now I have an epoxy jig on with a loop knot, so that lure is going to have a very sexy wobble. You can let the lure sink a little bit to get a little depth, but just slow and easy. And you'll notice the action on the epoxy jig is deadly. Our peanut bunkers will have a built-in wobble, and soft baits, well, that speaks for themselves with the soft plastic. Just a very easy retrieve. And this is a great one with very light leaders for very finicky fish. Just covering ground, slow and low, while you watch the birds on the horizon. It's a great blind casting technique. That lure, again, is just going to wobble through the water. These epoxy jigs are keeled for just the right balance, and this lure is just going to do its own thing. So just to summarize, you've got the Skippy Retrieve on the surface, a tip down retrieve, which you can do slow, medium, and fast, and lastly the slow and low, which is just a slow and steady retrieve, letting the lure do the work. But what I like to do is I'll switch in between all those different casting methods till I figure out what the fish want in that particular day. But if you know those 3 retrieves with any of the Albie lures you'd be using, you're in great shape.